Okay, if you're watching this video, hopefully you know what a subject is, what an object is, and what a possessive is. Okay, so this is the next step of that. Whereas English used to only have 3 cases, Latin, for today's purposes, thank you Latin nerds, I know there are more, but for today's purposes, has 6 cases. 6 cases. Now don't be overwhelmed by that. They're still easy, we can still do them, all right? In this lesson, I'm just going to try to introduce you to the concepts and give you some examples rather than go through everything. I just can't cover everything in one little lesson. So, I'm going to first give you the names of the 6 cases in Latin. So here they are. We have on the top, commonly you'll see them laid out. The first one is called the nominative. The nominative. The nominative. So I'm going to abbreviate it NOM. If you want to look up spelling, I'm sure it's available. Maybe I'll put it in the video description. The nominative. The second one that's listed is called the genitive. The genitive. The genitive. I'm going to abbreviate it G-E-N. G-E-N. Genitive. The next one I'm going to do is called the dative. The third one down, the dative. I'm going to abbreviate it D-A-T. D-A-T. Dative. The fourth one down is the accusative, called the accusative. I'm going to abbreviate it A-C-C. The greatest conference in basketball. Go Duke. Sorry. Nominative, genitive, dative, accusative. The next one is the ablative. The ablative. I had a Latin student who calls it the ablative, but we'll stick with ablative. The last one is called the vocative. Vocative. The vocative. Okay? And I'm going to go through now and talk about what these cases do. Remember from the last lesson, case is all about the ending showing us what the word does. That is to say, I can look at the way the word is formed, and it communicates to me what the word does in the sentence. We've got to understand that, just like he, him, his. All right, so the nominative. What does the nominative case show us? When a word is in the nominative, it tells us what the subject is. The nominative is for the subject. The nominative is for the subject. Okay? So if I see a word that's in the nominative case, I know it's the subject. Or a predicate nominative, like a nominative with a linking verb, like I am happy. Happy would also be in the nominative. But don't get lost on that. Okay. Then the genitive. Actually, I'm going to skip the genitive for a second. I'm going to come down to the accusative. And with my students, I talk about the accusative. Think of like a court of law, like I'm accusing you of something. And when you accuse somebody, you point right at them. So think of it as you're pointing directly at them, and the accusative is your direct object. It's your direct object. It immediately receives the action of the verb. For example, and the nominative would be our subject, let's say the teacher. The teacher hits a student. You shouldn't, but anyway, let's say that's what it is. Teacher then would be in the nominative case because it's your subject. Student would be in the accusative case because it is your direct object. It's what you're hitting. It's what you're striking. Okay, and if you don't know the difference between direct objects and other things, I don't have time to do it all in this lesson, but that would be in the accusative. Next, I'm going to do the dative. The dative is the case that shows us our indirect object. Our indirect object or indirect objects. So for example, let me grab my superheroes. I had my students make superhero animals to illustrate this. Yes, you can tell I'm very serious academic. Okay, so this is Porcus Porculi, the pig of danger or danger pig. And what I would do is I'd throw this around the classroom. So I'd say, Magister, teacher, throws danger pig. Danger pig would be my direct object in the accusative case to a student. Okay? To a student, that would be my indirect object. I'm not throwing my student. I would have a hard time getting a job if I was throwing my student. Okay? But it's the indirect object. It's indirectly receiving the action of the verb. The verb is acting through danger pig, but it's going to a student. Okay? So the subject does the throwing. The direct object is the thing receiving the verb itself, and the indirect object then is receiving the direct object. Okay? So the teacher throws danger pig to a student. Okay? That's our indirect object. Indirect object. Next, the genitive case. This, for our purposes today, is the possessive case. I know you Latin nerds are going to get on me later about it, but for today's purposes, this is our possessive case. Possessive case. Possessive. It shows who owns something or with whom something is associated. So for example, I caught Caesar's golden crown. I, the subject, caught's my verb. Golden crown, that's my direct object, that's what I caught, the crown. Whose crown? Caesar's crown. That's a possessive. The crown of Caesar. Okay? Or Vercingetorix bowed before the eagle of Rome. Rome's eagle. Whose eagle? Rome's eagle. It's possessive. It's associated with Rome. Okay? So just to review, we've got the nominative. That's our subject. That's what it's going to look like. We've got the genitive. That's our possessive. Dative. Oh, I forgot my silly story about the dative. The dative, I teach some younger students, like 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. And when I talk about the dative, I talk about it being awkward, like maybe going on a date in 7th grade. You can imagine like a 7th grade dance and it being really awkward. And so if you were to go up to a girl at a 7th grade dance, maybe just me, right? But if I was to go up to a girl, it'd be like really indirect, like, could I maybe take a dance with you? Okay, so it's indirect. The dative, if you're dating in middle school, it's indirect. It's not like you're direct. So dative, indirect. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, no problem. The accusative then, remember, accusative, direct object. Direct object. The verb acts directly on this thing. The ablative. For our purposes in this video, the ablative is the object of certain prepositions. Okay, so I'm going to abbreviate it OP. OP. Object of certain prepositions. There are other things it functions as. Yes, I know. But for our purposes today, it would be the object of a preposition. For example, a preposition like X. I am leaving. I'm leaving the United States. I'm leaving X, the United States, or of United States. Okay, and so I would put United States as the noun. That's the object of the preposition X or of. Okay, or in. I'm in my classroom in Ludo, in the school. Okay, in Ludo, that I would put it into the ablative. It shows me that it's the direct object of some preposition. Last but not least, the vocative. Last but not least, the vocative. And this is our case for direct address. Direct address. So my 3 favorite vocatives are friends, Romans, countrymen, from Mark Antony's speech in William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, right? Friends, Romans, countrymen. The vocative is to whom you're speaking, right? Like your mom or your dad or whoever, I don't know how old you are, would use this all the time, right? Kids, do your homework. Kids would be in the vocative. Homework would be in the accusative, so on and so forth. It's whom you're addressing. Okay, whom you're addressing. So friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Friends would be in the vocative. Romans would be in the vocative. Countrymen would be in the vocative. Because it's, again, who you're speaking to. Who you're speaking to. That goes in the vocative. Comes from Latin voco, which means I call to, or to call. So the vocative is to whom you're calling. Okay? All right. So there's an example of, or there's a layout of what they do with a couple examples of each. I'm going to put down here the first declension. Remember, declension, just like a conjugation, it's just a pattern. It's just a pattern that words fall into. So let's grab it. No, it's Greek. Hold on. I need a Latin word. Let's do puella. Puella. Puella just means girl. It's probably one of the first words you learn. And when it's written in the dictionary, you'll see it abbreviated as puella, puellai. And you'll see that A-E. I hope that's showing up all right. I'll outline it a little bit. When we look at declensions, noun declensions, we need to remember, or we need to know, that I can tell what pattern it belongs to by looking at the second form. That's called the genitive form. So just like in our chart, it goes down, the genitive second. Sure enough, in your dictionary, whatever the dictionary is, it doesn't matter. In your Latin dictionary, the genitive will be listed second. It'll be listed second. And I is the ending, the inflected ending of that noun. So my endings for the cases are, I'll write them here. We've got I, that's a long A there, so versus and then then our plurals are I, arum, is, as, is, I. Okay. One quick observation, why many times people, you won't see them 6 long, is because the vocative forms are always identical to the nominative forms except in one exception. And I'm not going to get into that today. But anyway, the vocatives are always identical to the nominatives. So you'll notice and I and I. Okay? All right. So that is to say, if I was to come across a certain word, like puella, and I saw puellarum, and if I saw that form, I know, oh, my ending is arum, so I can mentally flip through kind of this declension pattern, this chart, and go, arum, there it is. I know that's a genitive plural, of the girls. So like, we went to the spring, and we were listening to the conversation, puellarum, of the girls. At the same time, if I say I saw puellum, that ending tells me that's an accusative. It's the direct object. I disciplined the girl. Right? As a teacher, I disciplined her. She was talking out whatever it was, and so I disciplined the girl. It's an accusative direct object, and the ending tells me that. Okay, same thing, accusative plural. The girls, they were chatting all day, and so I disciplined the girls. Subject, I, puellai. The girls were talking. Puellai would be your subject. And so that ending is what communicates to us what the noun does. I use this example sometimes with our students. You can think of 3 cases. So I think of like a suitcase, a backpack, and a lunch pail. A suitcase has certain functions. It has certain things it's good for. A backpack has certain things it's good for. A lunchbox has certain things it's good for. So like if you're packing your lunch in a suitcase, you're probably doing it wrong, or you're eating way too much maybe. In the same way, a subject only goes in this case. It goes in the nominative case. That's where it belongs. It goes in there like your clothes. Your clothes belong in the suitcase, not in the lunchbox. So think of those endings. The main thing I try to get across to my students in my first year Latin class is the way that case functions. This is the main difficulty I see in my 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade students. By the time they get up to 10th grade, they're good. Students in my school, this is the main thing. So once you focus on this, or once you get this, this is really probably half of all of Latin in Greek as well, is understanding the way case works. So if I want something to be a subject for me in a sentence, like let's say puella, then I need to have it in the nominative. If it's going to describe something, the girl's bag, puellai, sarkana puellai, the girl's bag. Dative, to the girl, I gave the porcus periculi. Oh, that's good. The teacher threw porcus periculi across the classroom, or threw it to the girl. So magister, in the nominative, Yucket throws porcum periculi. That would be the accusative. I know it's a different pattern, but sorry. The accusative porcum, the pig, he throws the pig, periculi, of danger, genitive, to the girl, puellai. So however the word functions in its sentence, that's what determines what case it goes into. So the main thing that you can do as a Latin student in their first year, or one of the main things, is understand your verbs. And the second one would be how these cases work. Your subject, your possessive, your indirect object, your direct object, the object of the preposition, and direct address. Okay? I hope that was helpful. If I need to kind of go through it slower, maybe I'll give some sentence examples. But whatever your curriculum is, whether you're doing Wheelocks as an older student, hopefully, or Oxford or Cambridge or Latin for Americans, whatever it is, you've got to get this idea down. You must understand this. So we have to understand, of course, what a subject is, what a possessive is, what a direct object and an indirect object are, what a preposition is, and then what a vocative is. It's what you're calling to, okay? So it might take you a couple times to get over that. But once you get those ideas down in whatever your native tongue is, it's a lot easier to do Latin. You just have to understand what's going on. Okay, what's going on? Is this a subject, an object, whatever? Okay, all right. Hopefully that's helpful. And yeah.